Hey guys, Thomas the Solution here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Spider-Man No Way Home. If you end up enjoying this full review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. First, I'll head you over to my Discord, second to my Patreon page, third to my PayPal. Any donations or requests via money will be greatly appreciated and will help keep this channel going. With shilling out of the way, it will be reminded at the end of the review, and with that out of the way, let's get into Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, this will be a spoiler review, so let's get that out of the way first and foremost. So if you have not seen the movie, this will contain spoilers. And yeah, so, I mean, some of the poster does reveal quite a bit of stuff that happens. I mean, the Green Goblin's on the poster, and the Dr. Octopus tentacles are in the poster, so, and Shocker's also on the poster, so, oh, and the Lizard's also on the poster, I mean, why should I bother saying spoilers? I mean, everything that people thought was going to happen in this movie was shown in the trailers, or at least most of the things, I should say, at this point. I mean, that is how Disney Marvel does their trailers sometimes. Particularly, yeah, I did notice that with Spider-Man a lot in the previous two, before this one. I remember the trailers for those as well gave a lot of the movie away. And I'm never a fan of that, by the way. It doesn't get me excited. It kind of kills the mood of, like, any potential excitement. It's just like, oh yeah, that guy's gonna show up, cool, I guess. So, I don't know, I guess to other people, they get hyped, and to me, I'm just like, eh. But hey, I'm here to be as objective as possible, which means I'm here to criticize when the movie is bad, and, give it praise when it is good. Now, let's recall that I did not like Into the Spider-Verse, and though that review in itself had many of the issues that I would refix or, change to revitalize it, but I would still say, objectively speaking, that movie was not complete. There's quite a few flaws with that movie. Anyway, we're talking about Spider-Man No Way Home. With that out of the way, I think it's about time to actually talk about what happens in the movie now that we're 3 minutes in. So, the news of Mysterio, so that's the villain from the previous movie, is killed. The news of that gets out to the public, thanks to James and his reporting. J. Jonah Jameson, that is. And the people are freaking out. They're, either, criticizing Spider-Man when he's, like, right there, or they're, like, asking him for autographs for some reason. But there seems to be more negative implications than positive for the most part. So he freaks out and he grabs MJ, his girlfriend. I guess that's what they are in this by now. Shrugs on that. But anyways, he swings off with her, and they're trying to find a place to essentially just talk about it and try to, calm the situation down. However, when they return to their house, to Peter's house, they see that they are already on the news again, and then the police arrive at their little house, and they're all arrested. Him, his friend, his girlfriend, his aunt, are all arrested. In it, when they are arrived at the police station, his friend is spilling information really quickly, while Aunt and MJ, Aunt May that is, are trying to be all dodgy with the information, and I was expecting Peter to fight back a little bit more, but he seems to also be particularly dodgy with his information, which, I don't know, I find odd if, since Mysterio was a bad guy. I mean, I'm still a little questionable as to how it didn't get out that those were his robots initially, that he built them. I mean, I guess he did technically build them from Star Labs, or, from using that tech, so I don't know. I, it's a little it's a little odd, I suppose. I don't know if I fully buy it 100%, but I wouldn't say it's the worst pull, I would say. Anyway, um, when met with several accusations, suddenly Daredevil, Matt Murdock, aka also known as Matt Murdock, appears. Uh, I'm not sure who the actor is. I'm just, as soon as you see him, you immediately know, oh, that's Daredevil. Um, maybe he's from the show that the more recent show. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with Daredevil, quite honestly, so I'm not sure who the actor is. But anyway, they get Daredevil to be his defendant. Uh, and while after that's going on, they're able to return home, I guess, because things are starting to calm down a little bit. So while Aunt May's ex, because I guess they're broken up now for some reason, I'm not sure why, um, is dealing with Happy, Peter is trying to call MJ and trying to figure out what they're going to try to do next via what school they're going to try to go to, because they're still thinking about their futures and stuff. So, on his way to school, of course, he gets a very different reaction from all the students. And he meets with MJ on the roof to talk about it and chill and just have a moment to relax, and Ned comes in and interrupts their little moment, and he's getting guffed too on his side. And as they try to prepare to sign up for colleges, they get denied because of the events. So what they have done, essentially, this entire first section sounds like a specific fuck you to cancel culture, because this entire first segment of the movie is about literally getting canceled out of, and actually being damaged for, well, from Peter's perspective, doing the right thing. So I find this very fascinating that this was able to come out now, at least the first portion of the movie. The rest of the movie, we're going to have a few issues here, but we're going to get to those. Anyway, so things are actually looking pretty interesting. There's actually things to be said about this that are relative to the current events. Anyway, so he heads over to Dr. Strange's place because of reasons? Question mark? He looked at something that gave him some sort of indication that he should go there. I think that's what happened. I'm not entirely sure. The camera suggests it, but I'm not. Again, I shrug. Anyway, Dr. Strange and Wong comes in with this very brief cameo and a warning about something or other, while Peter is telling Dr. Strange about his predicament. And this is the thing you see in the trailer where Dr. Strange begins to cast his spell. And this is definitely where I even had issues with it in the trailer. So, Peter, or Dr. Strange, suggests, or he gets convinced, I suppose, that he should cast this spell that everyone would forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and Peter, by virtue of being young and naive, puts too much stock on having the memory loss of MJ and Ned and Aunt May, the very closest people who already knew beforehand, that they should get to know. And he keeps interrupting Dr. Strange's spell. And this, of course, causes the entire rest of the movie to unfold. As the spell gets fucked up, and kind of goes kablooey. And things are going to begin to happen now. And at first, even when seeing the trailer, I didn't fully believe this would come out of the movie, based on where I thought Peter and MJ and all of them were at this point in their, respectable lives. I don't know, that I think, and I'm not entirely sure how I would go about fixing this. It's definitely the crux of the movie, and I find it odd, again, since this is a spoiler review, that in the end, the solution is to literally just do the spell correctly. That's literally the end of the movie. Well, if there's an after credits sequence, I don't stick around for those anymore, because I don't care about what's next. I care about how good a movie is now, instead. So, yeah. So I don't know if this was completely earned. And I also, just in context of this movie alone, it feels a bit rushed on top of everything else. Keep in mind that this takes place 20 minutes into the movie. This is a 2-hour movie, and the first 20 minutes has some of the most interesting stuff, and it definitely does feel a bit rushed. I feel like there'd be a bit more push and pull, especially from Peter as a character, trying to see if he can find a way out, see if he can, talk to people, see if he can figure out on, the people who still are chanting for him or something. I don't know, like something, but no, it just rushes to, oh, we're just going to do the spell, and I don't feel like that's something Peter would just, do. So I do feel like there's a huge missed opportunity in the first segment of this movie, to explore those ideas even further, because I do feel like that there is a lot to be desired from that first segment. Now the rest of the movie, there's a lot of, oh, and now this character is here. Now, I'm not going to say that's the only thing that is in this movie, but it is a good crux of the movie. So I will say, out of the elements that were already predictable, I would say the most interesting element is when Peter gets to talk to the other two Peters from the other previous iterations of Spider-Man. But we'll get to that a little bit later. For now, let's just continue on from where we were. And even Strange kind of complains to Peter too, on top of the movie's writing kind of feeling rushed. Peter also said, Strange also just suggests, like, why didn't you go to the principal, or, actually talk to her, or, actually mail her back? And I was like, yeah, why didn't Peter even try? He just sort of gave up in 20 minutes. And again, the movie feels rushed. I'm not sure with how much it doesn't even feel like a day has passed, and he's already like, oh god, make everyone forget. That feels like something you would try to push back on, like, as long as possible, and the longer it would seem to occur, like, if they did a year montage or something, and people are just harassing him, for a year, longer than a year, something along those lines, then I'd be like, okay, maybe that would work. But no, they don't even do a montage or anything to indicate that a a great deal of time has passed. Anyway, so uh, so Peter goes to do that. He goes to talk to the school, one of the school people he was interested in going to. However, get ready for cameos galore as Doc Ock makes his appearance from Spider-Man 2. Uh, and then they begin to just fight. Uh, and to give the movie some credit, Spider-Man does get to have some moments where he's doing the best he can to save the woman who's left there while other people have left, while, trying to hold Dr. Octopus back. And, he saves her successfully. And this weird thing happens where his suit, like, he has the arm thing himself, so it's very close. It's a lot closer to Dr. Octopus, and Dr. Octopus even mentions that. And like the suit does something, and then it like grabs Doc Ock's tentacle thing, and then like absorbs into it, which is something I'm not sure that was something it could even do, but okay. So he can suddenly control Dr. Octopus's tentacles, that being Spider-Man. So he's able to seduce, Doc Ock at that point. However, that's when we see from the trailer the green orb from Green Goblin explode. So once Doc has been neutralized, a sudden flash appears, and Peter Parker appears elsewhere with Dr. Octopus. Strange apparently has teleported them to somewhere in his building, and starts to explain the multiverse. That being that there are multiple versions of Earth, and they go through different iterations of just as much as there has been the two other versions of Spider-Man. So those would line up within different universes of Spider-Man. So that has become confirmed as a thing that is happening now. So Strange gives Spider-Man a magical device, the MacGuffin of the movie. It allows him to essentially call over any villain he sees fit and is able to teleport them to this location, essentially. So he brings MJ and Ned along to Doctor Strange's place, and they kind of just become cheerleaders throughout the entire rest of the movie. I'll just be honest about that. So, shrug. So the trio were looking into the Goblin's location, and Dr. Octopus talks about how he became a ghost. So as Spider-Man is now researching for the Goblin, he runs into both Electro and Sandman. I should point out that I believe that this is the best, thing, the closest they're ever gonna get to do the Sinister Six. So Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, Electro, Sandman, Lizard, and then, did I say Green Goblin? Oh wait, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Electro, Lizard, Sandman. Is there one more? Oh, and Lizard. Yeah, Sinister Six. So yeah, this is also the Sinister Six movie that almost never happened, and now it's happening here, with the other two Spider-Mans invading into the world. Sorry for my bad math, but, whatever. So he bumps into first Electro and Sandman, played by Of course, all the actors for these individuals returned for their roles years, either years later or less, but still years later. But they do a little bit with Electro that's quite fascinating. They give him a suit upgrade, and that just sort of abruptly happens, by the way. But that happens a little bit later in the movie. Anyway, Sandman seems pretty cool. He's like, yeah, I'll team up with you, Spider-Man. So he's already, which is weird, because all the other villains seem to be already in their villain state, but Sandman has changed. I guess technically he did change before he perished or whatever, so I guess that makes sense. I don't know. It's weird. The whole, like, when they were pulled out of their time frame, that whole bit is really bizarre. And it definitely has the most flags for potential questions about, like, how that even works and how that will, alter them returning back in the states that they're put in when they're put back. So definitely a lot of bizarre flags that are being risen in this movie. And the lizard is already in a cell. Like, I guess I don't know how he ended up in one, but he's just in one, I guess. Question mark. I don't know. So we cut back to Green Goblin. He's unmasked and he's freaking out. He's doing his alter ego thing. You know how it is with him. He's still got the acting chops. So, he gets to have a little moment. Anyway, so he goes back to Aunt May. As Parker rushes back to her. Meanwhile, J. Jonah Jameson gets a call, and he's like, ooh, I got a potential for a scoop. So he's driving over there to that location. So, Peter, to the initial indication of what Aunt May wants, or suggests, that, try to help these villains, restore them to be better people, restore their health, their mental state, so on and so forth. So now Peter wants to stop the spell, so he does, before they are all sent back and killed, which would have ended the movie. Because that's how they end the movie, so there's no argument in that. That's literally how they end the movie. So they have to give some sort of excuse as to why Peter would stop the spell. He's trying to essentially help the villains not be villains in their world anymore. Which again came from Aunt May, and yeah. So this is where we see another thing from the trailer where Peter is forced out of his body. Now this just confused me. He's able to, while out of his body, his spider suit is still able to move. I don't even fucking have a clue how that works. And by the way, there's no inherent answer in the movie. There's none. He's just able to crawl back into his own body when he's astrally projected out of it. What the fuck? That is some bullshit. I'm sorry, but that is like the biggest load of shit I've seen in this entire movie, and I gotta call it out. It's bullshit. It's what it is. It is what it is. So, yeah. So this is where Dr. Strange is trying to catch him, stop him, get the MacGuffin back to send these villains back, and this is where Spider-Man is trying to, dive and dodge, and you see the little moments where all the buildings are swirling and stuff. But Spider-Man actually manages to beat Dr. Strange in this battle of holes and portals and web. And again, he wants the bad guys not to be, killed. He wants to help. So he brings them to his apartment where Aunt May is. And he's having a little powwow with Sandman and Electro there. And he has Doc Ock already there too. And he's working on Doc Ock first. So he gets this little chip that he fixes, that fixes his little neuron thing that allows him to be in control of his little, tentacles. And he feels it when Peter officially fixes it, and he's like, wow. So everything's all looking all handy-dandy. However, as Happy calls in very briefly and James is making his way over there, the Goblin makes his, intentions just and out. This also causes Electro to push out his device that's been placed on him that, gives off this electro pulse or whatever. So even the villains are on different spectrums of where they are with each other, and the Lizard is just kind of fucks off, I guess. By the way, I believe when Aunt May was talking to Parker, I believe this is where she does with great power comes great responsibility. I think that's where this happens. Which is what caused him to do all of this stuff in the first place. So they used the vintage Spider-Man line in there. Anyway, back to where I was. So, Goblin fights Peter, and Aunt May is trying to do stuff, get involved, and he throws a little bomb off, and Peter is inches away from it, and I'm talking about it's in his face, and he's able to survive. So now we have that happen again, which is always a big question mark of okay, you survived an explosion somehow. I don't know. I mean, I get that Peter Parker is supposed to be strong, but I don't think that prevents you from getting explosion damage by any means. After that, Aunt May was also caught in said explosion, and no, this is actually where she says the vintage, with great power comes great responsibility, and then she dies. And this is the emotional moment for Peter Parker. He gets all emotional, he cries, and I will admit he was able to carry the scene well enough. This version of Aunt May, I never kind of fully bought as Aunt May. I don't know. There was something about her character that I always felt a little bit off about, and I'm not entirely sure how I would place it. I would probably have to see the other two movies again, because I barely remember what her character was, to be kind of honest, if I'm, being blunt about it. So I didn't really feel emotionally connected to her character, but his acting did technically carry the scene, so I guess that works well enough for what they were trying to do. Anyway, so James gets the scoop after the fact, and, of course he twists it in his own, oh, look at this damage that's been caused here in this location at Spider-Man, because that's how we do. So, Ned and MJ are left behind in the same area that they were in. Now, I don't know how Ned got this little ring thing from Dr. Strange, but at some point in the movie he obtained it, I guess. I completely neglected to find it in my notes, so I don't know where it happens in the movie. Big question mark. So if someone can remind me in the comments, just let me know, because I don't remember where it happens in the movie anyway. Point is that they get the second version of Spider-Man, played by Andrew, to jump in from the Amazing Spider-Man series. And, MJ's like, what the fuck? You're not Peter, and, they're telling him to do all the Peter and Spider-Man things, and he crawls on the walls and does all the stuff. So they're like, okay, let's try this again. They go to make another portal, and of course, the original Peter comes into the fray. Once again, mantled up by the Tobey Maguire. I call them the Tobey Maguire. Whatever. Anyways, so now we have 3 Spider-Mans. We have original Spider-Man, Andrew the Amazing Spider-Man, and the new Spider-Man. And that's how I'll probably refer to them as, to just to differentiate them in terms of their moments. Once they initially meet each other, they immediately start talking with one another, and they start to talk about how much Peter time they get with each other. And again, their interactions, more so than, I believe, the nostalgia, is actually what I find more fascinating here. Between the 3 Peters, that is, the whole villains coming back and, building up the Sinister Six for the first time, which is something they wanted to do way earlier on, is kind of just like, oh, well, they got to do it, so that's cool, I guess. But, the hype just, I don't know, I just want a good movie, And there are parts of this movie that are good, so, there's that. Anyway, so Peter calls James over a phone and tells him, like, hey, I'm going to try to do the right thing. And James is like, haha, no, you're not. So they set up on the Statue of Liberty on their final battle frontier. And before their little final battle frontier, the original Peter makes a back joke. Now, you might be wondering, why would he be talking about his back? So, for those who are not in the know, a little behind the scenes of the original Spider-Man, they actually had the actor do the whole falling bit when he was learning to crawl for the first time. And when he hit, I believe, a certain car, he injured his back because he actually did the stunt at the time. So he injured his back, and they made fun of it one other time. I forget when it was. I guess Tobey Maguire is a really good sport about that, because, man, not a lot of actors would probably be like, I'm returning to Spider-Man, after something like that. I don't think, every actor would be like that, so I guess he's a good sport. Maybe. I don't know. So, after that, the 3 of them talking about their different iterations of webbing and how that all works. And as I stated, Electro just comes out with a new suit. Because, fuck, whatever. We have no time left to explain that shit. So he just gets a new suit just because. I mean, hey, he does look cooler in this movie, I'll give it that much, so. He doesn't look like a terrible blue blob, although the lizard still looks odd in this movie, which, well, okay. You could fix one thing, but you couldn't fix the CGI on the lizard? What the fuck? I'm sorry, but the lizard looks terrible in this movie, I'm just gonna say it. He looks just terrible, which I find odd since, Suicide Squad could do, the shark guy, the King Shark, so well. So, I'm a little bit surprised that Marvel's Spider-Man didn't step up their CGI game a little bit here for the Lizard. He just looks terrible. As terrible as I think he did in his debut, or, his iteration in The Amazing Spider-Man. Was he in 1 or 2? I actually forget which one he's in. I think he's in 1. I believe 2 is Electro, and someone else. And Lizard's in the first one, maybe. I don't remember which one was which. Anyway, getting back to the movie. So, the 3 of them are pretty struggling so far, as all 6 of the villains are out and about. And so, the 3 Spider-Man, when they are able to, reconvene at some point, their the new Spider-Man talks about, how he's a part of the Avengers, and the other 2 have no clue what that is, which I find, a little bit of a, so he's able to talk them into how to coordinate their attacks, and how to sort of, individual, or, sort of team up on one villain at a time. So, through that method, they are able to send Sandman back via the teleporting thing. Meanwhile, since Ned has the golden teleporting portal still open for some reason, I'm not even sure why, but Lizard's barging into that location and they have to run from him. Meanwhile, Dr. Octopus, still, being the good guy because his chip is still fixed, goes after Electro, and removes his power. And then they send Lizard back. They change him back into a human because the technology is able to fix everyone just like that. And this is where Dr. Strange comes in again. He teleports in. He's like, that Ned guy. Well, he's able to create portals. That's weird. Goblin. The Goblin comes in and he blows up something or other. This causes MJ to fall. Now, the second Peter, the Amazing Peter, as I'll refer to him as, is able to swoop down and save her. Now, that is another reference, because in his movie, he was unable to save, I gotta forget her name, because it's not MJ, it's the other one. Shit. Fuck. I forget her name right now off the top of my head. I didn't write it down. I know she has white hair. That's what I can remember off the top of my head without really putting my brain power into full gear or looking it up. Point being, he gets to save MJ, so he gets to do the thing he couldn't do in his movie. All the while, a rift in the space-time or something or other is starting to break at the seams. And note that all of this fighting actually made me miss, because I don't know where it happens in the movie. The best, little segment of them before the whole fight breaks out, I believe, is when this happens, but I'm not sure where exactly. It's after Aunt May dies as well. The 2 of them. Oh yes, I did write it down. I just skipped over it for some reason. Yes, the 2 of them talk to him about their loss, and what that line actually means to its fullest extent. What her loss means and what you can do to make sure it wasn't for nothing and all that stuff. And again, I feel like that particular scene, as short and brief as it is definitely one of the more important scenes of the entire movie. It's more exciting than all of this fighting stuff to me, because it makes the fighting worth it. Because without the scene, it's just a bunch of villains and heroes fighting, and that can look cool, but, I mean, if it doesn't mean anything, then it just kind of pointless fighting, I guess. Which, is not fun. It doesn't. It can't. That it's not a full story. It just turns into people fighting. So I do apologize for skipping that scene in my notes. I'm not sure why I skipped it. Oh yeah, and I wrote after this. This is where they science up and create the cures too. After they talk about, after they cheer the new Peter up and convince him of, you got to do this, you got to step up, because of, the other two were able to do it through the grit of, you know, of being a superhero and all that. Excuse me. Anyways, getting back to the fighting. So Peter fights Goblin, and he's still vengeful because he's still thinking about how he lost Aunt May. So that's still on his mind, and he still wants that revenge regardless. And the original Peter, of course, stops him, and that's where he is stabbed by the Goblin. So sort of a reverse scenario of the original, movie, in a way, I guess. But that jab, I guess, doesn't also kill the original Peter. He just gets jabbed. So, after they, scoop up the villains and the ones that are, sort of already subdued or on their side or on their side, Peter goes up to Dr. Strange as he's seeing all of this teleporting stuff happening above him, and he asks Dr. Strange to do a new spell where he makes sure everyone would forget the thing that he interrupted the first time. So, Doctor Strange complies. All the superheroes, all the other two Spider-Mans, and the Sinister Six all disappear. And a bamf happens outward, and we cut to some time later, indistinguishable time later, where Jameson is on the news talking about how Spider-Man needs to be unmasked. So it worked. The event still happened, so Aunt May is still dead, so the consequences of the spell happening after did have some implications. It's not like it reversed time. It didn't do that. It made people forget the reveal happened, and that's it. And the separation between Spider-Man and Peter Parker. So, he meets up with MJ, who, again, has forgotten who he is, and Ned, who has also forgotten who he is. So, he kind of just leaves the store after buying something or other, and then he goes to pay his respect to Aunt May with Happy there. And after the fact, he heads back out to do his Spider-Man thing as he heads out with his spider suit and swings into the fray once more. And that was Spider-Man No Way Home. So yeah, I would say as an overall movie, I definitely have a few issues here and there. The beginning definitely feels rushed, as I mentioned. The spell part obviously feels very rushed, and as a consequence of the beginning feeling rushed. The whole look at these characters, look at the Sinner Six, the thing that we couldn't get to happen that one other time. We got them here for this movie, and it's also the nostalgia trip because it's the same actors reprising all of their roles, which I guess it's neat for they were able to actually even get all of them, which, there's some respect, I suppose, you can have for that, that they were able to achieve that. and, not wait too long for some actors to, say, maybe pass away or have something unfortunate happen. They were able to capture this with all the actors able to return and wanting to return and able to do it. So I guess there is something to the nostalgia, and actually, you know, I'm not going to say it's completely, pointless stuff, just because it is nostalgia. There are things that, despite being meta, are still appreciated despite it. But again, I do feel like there is a bit more. Again, the Peter scene where the three are talking about loss and how each of them have lost something or someone very close and how to soldier on from that. I definitely feel like, again, that is the most important scene of the entire movie, but the scene is relatively short in the grand scheme of things for the context of the full movie. So, if I were to give this movie a objective score based on everything, I would probably either give this movie a 5, or the furthest I would push would be a 6 out of 10. Um, Again, from the rushed start to uh, the nostalgia, having certain elements that it tweaks to be like, oh, there's actually plot stuff, or, there's actually character work, happening here. So there's actually things happening from the nostalgia. It isn't just nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia. It's not purely that, so I'll give that point. But there are definitely still some wonky things that happen uh, uh, within the context. What Peter is able to survive. Definitely some questionable things there. That's I'm gonna point that out again. Um, and yeah, so that is my full movie review. So again, that's a 5 or a 6 at most out of 10. And with that review, once again, if you liked this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. First, we'll head you over to my Discord. Second, to my Patreon. Third, to my PayPal. Any donations can lead to a certain request or just be appreciated for being, given. And with that out of the way, until next time, everyone, bye-bye.